request vid for a wave. I think this wave started when the Nikon D850 came out. For some reason it's kind of peaked. Answers questions, excuse me, about the Nikon D500. Got a couple of these. The one that's actually making all my videos, by the way, is also on a Nikon D500, which I downsample. It might not be the best video quality, but that's because I downsample the size to make them small, quick to upload. So obviously the D500 is capable of a lot better videos than I actually upload to YouTube. Specifically, however, owning the Nikon D850, it's like, well, oh my god, it's a full-frame camera, it's got to be better. Same pixel pitch, same high ISO, low-light performance as a Nikon D500. Yeah, but it does not have the buffer. The autofocus points are basically slightly larger, are spread over much smaller area of the scene that you're actually shooting. So for bird photography, sports photography, action, wildlife, photojournalism, the D500 is the epic titties. The D500 is still king. There's just been like a wave of questions. Like, what about the D500? You haven't mentioned it recently. It's like, well, I don't, I've mentioned it ad nauseum, and I was the first person to review the D500. By the way, when I was the first person to review this camera, I beat the hell out of it, testing it. And then I said, this camera will be legendary for Nikon, and it has been. Everything, oh, you're so full of crap, $2,000 DX crop sensor camera. It's like, no, it's exactly been vindicated 100% on this camera. Now you can get them used for about $1,400. Actually, I know a Nikon D7200 is quite an amazing camera, and it is basically #1 best value Nikon camera that I'd recommend somebody. This is a D7200 currently, like used for about $650, somewhere around there. But a step up from that, and one hell of a step up, is the Nikon D500. Actually, so far as professional camera, actually I can't think of a better recommendation than a Nikon D500. Like, grab a used one for $1,500. Nikon will probably still have a deal going on with the D500 soon, where you get like a free grip or something like that. They did that like last year. But as far as the buffer, the buffer on the D500, better than the D850. The autofocus points are covering much more, since it's a crop sensor and it's the same basic autofocus sensing module. It covers the same area. I know the D850 covers slightly larger than the typical full-frame sensor, but it's only very slightly. So you get much better coverage for shooting stuff that's flitting around, like birds and stuff for photojournalism, wildlife, sports, action. D500 is just an epic damn beast. Ignoring, which I can't ignore, the D7200, which is the best value. Actually, I could easily say that the D500 has and is really currently about the best value camera I'd recommend for that. I know it's still like $1,400 for a good used one or like a factory refurb. The D500 is incredible. Nothing has changed on the D500 since it came out, and the D850 is not. Everybody that owns a D500 and a D850, they'll tell you that for like hardcore, for the buffer and more coverage on the autofocus points relative to the sensor, they still prefer the D500, especially the buffer. You sit there, you got XQD cards on this, and and of course the file sizes are not that huge. The D850 file sizes are huge. They're up not the D850. By the way, the D850 file sizes, raw, 14-bit lossless compressed, are the exact same size as the lossless 14-bit compressed on my medium format GFX. Exact same size. D500 is incredible. D7200 isn't a dinky camera, so it is #1 top value. But as far as pro level, top value Nikon, it'd be the D500, honestly. Less than half the price of the D850. Unless you're doing portraiture or landscape photography as your primary endeavor, you don't need a full-frame sensor camera. You don't. D500, kind of like a nocturnal beast. I used to have a sugar glider with big eyeballs. He hated when you brought him out in any sort of light. he'd squeal and complain. D500 is kind of like that. It does clip specular highlights, almost like 3. So you have to be sensitive in the exposure of the D500. Do like a highlight weighted metering, which is a top recommendation with the D500. But also too for like low light club shooting. Oh my god, like you got some fast action going on where like dude on crack is up on stage doing crazy stuff at 100 miles an hour. You can't bring a speed light in. There's no other camera I'd rather have than the D500. You got the buffer and you got the low light performance. So the D500 still, after all this time, it hasn't been that long, has it? Well, it kind of has. D500 after all this time is still epic tatas. It is. Every YouTuber, including Mark Smith and What's Wildlife Dude down in Florida, Steve Perry, I'll tell you the same thing on the D500. They both own the D850 and D500. So yeah, you know, for birding, you know, I kind of rather whip out the Nikon D500. The buffer on the D850, you get 11 frames per second on with the vertical grip, which is expensive, and the ENL18B battery expensive, the charger is expensive, and then you don't have anywhere near the buffer. I mean, the file size, I mean, you're talking 47 megabyte, excuse me, 47 megapixel sensor camera, full frame, and the file size is average 51 megabytes. Yeah, the buffer can't be that damn deep. So if you got an action sequence going on the D850, I mean, you know, it will choke out quite fast, especially if you're familiar with the D500. So those of you who have the D500, there's no, unless you're do some portraiture and landscape endeavors, there's no need to lust after the D850. D500's got it going on. Still does. It does. I love the D500. I mean, I just love the piss out of it. This is my primary D500 to grab. The other one is filming my ugly face right now on the tripod. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Hope you like these videos. A lot of people task me to discuss the D500 since I haven't mentioned it in a while. Thank you, and goodbye. Do 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 do.